Hi, everyone, and welcome to Ask Tamily interview number 157. We've just passed the 3-year mark, which is pretty exciting, and we're really excited to talk with Shannon today, and her handle is SB Meyer, in case you don't follow her. Definitely check in, and I'm going to get her on, and we will get started in just a second. All right, hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. Oh, I see Deidre, Kristen. Hi. Hi again. You're gonna have to tell me the name of your lipstick. I'm so jealous of this like pretty orange red.
Thank you. It is Trois Olivier, and it was like a J. Crew collab from like many years ago. You know, when Jenna Lyons was still doing their creative, she was famous for that lip, and this was a color she always wore. You know, so anyway. I am still obsessed with her, and so
Yes. Isn't it the one that like promoted the like cool way to actually roll up your sleeves and like tuck your sleeves?
that's right. That's right.
I have used
Yep.
that tip in my career and I still love it. It's the only way they stay up. So
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
yay.
Exactly. And a good French tuck.
Yes, the French tuck, also my other favorite. I never want to be too formal and fully tucked, so just a little bit right in the front or to the side is great.
That's right. That's right. Like the mullet, business in front, party in the back.
Exactly. That's how we do it around here. Well, Shannon, we're
Yeah.
so excited to have you as interview 157. It's crazy. I'm also excited that this kind of came together at the perfect time. And lucky me, I'm fortunate to be able to interview you because I've wanted to talk to you and meet you forever. So this is the closest that we get until I get my tail over to Colorado to come see you. So we are really excited. We have some planned questions, and for everybody watching, you can type questions into the chat, and I will do my best to keep up with everything. But we've got tons to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, if that's okay. And maybe we'll start with one of the kind of foundational questions, which is how and when did you get started with the Tracy Anderson method?
Well, it was the fall of 2012, and I was a lifelong runner, yogi, Pilates person, and I had life just kept getting more and more hectic, and it was really difficult for me to make classes, and was finding like, you know, daylight hours to run during were getting to be harder to come by. And I found Tracy on YouTube, like a lot of people, and did that for a couple of months. And then my spouse got me Metamorphosis for a Christmas present, and started working through that, went through that, and then started doing continuity. And I was doing continuity, I guess, until the fall of 2016 when I started streaming. And it was one of those things like, when I first started, I wasn't all in. It was sort of like an add-on and an adjunct, and it stayed like that for forever. And in fact, I love to joke that half of my continuity DVDs are still shrink wrapped because I never actually got to them. I treasure them so much, and I feel like they're kind of like, I mean, I don't know what I'm keeping them for. I have lent my Metamorphosis set out to a couple of different people who have returned it, which is very nice. But it's, you know, it's over time, it's just taken on more and more space in my kind of wellness routine. And I think that it was one of those things that, like, it took me a really long time, and by really long I mean only like even in the last year have I really started to feel things in ways that I feel like they were always meant to be felt. So for whatever reason, I don't know whether as I was overdeveloped, I'm sure a trainer could tell me like why my body was so resistant for so long to it for so long, but it's been really rewarding to feel the method working in my body in new and different ways.
I love that. So many things about that. First off, I have to giggle with you a little bit because I also have shrink wrapped continuity. I have a file folder and it must be like 4 or 5 inches thick in my drawer. It takes up so much space. And I'm like, I'll just go ahead and shred these tax returns so I can keep DVDs in here. Um,
Exactly.
and how lucky for you that when you loan it out, you get it back. I've loaned out several of my DVDs, but I feel like they've flown wings and they've never come back to me.
Yeah.
But I still miss them. And also, how fortunate that your partner was really thinking enough to get you such a cool gift for Christmas. I think in some worlds, some people might be like, why are you getting me a workout DVD for Christmas? But we all know it's like, oh my gosh, that would be the best gift ever. So,
Yeah.
so you've been, do you remember what year about that you started kind of dabbling with the DVDs?
Well, around I guess December 2012. So,
Okay.
and I've collected a few others. I think some dance cardio DVDs that I still go back to from time to time.
Yeah.
And I love the continuity dance cardio routines. And it's so fun when I see them kind of like they'll show up. And I'm not I don't know, a dance cardio scholar like many members of the Tamily are, but I recognize the moves when I see them, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, this dance makes sense all of a sudden. I'm like, oh yeah, now that's what that.
Yes.
It never goes away. It never goes away.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you're almost coming up on like a decade of experience with Tracy Anderson method, which is
Yeah.
like pretty freaking incredible. So congrats to you. And very cool that, like you said, even just over the past year plus is when you kind of really get in the groove. I feel like kind of everybody finds their own path until you figure out like what is the right mix and the right balance for you and how do you fit that in.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for me, one of the things that was really challenging is that, when I transitioned over to streaming, as you know, in those early days, it was like you had one choice. And, Tracy advised me, she's like, oh, you can totally do streaming. You're strong enough to do streaming. Go and do it. And I was like, okay, great. I'll sign up. And I signed up and I started doing it. And it was, and I don't know whether it was, I wondered if I wasn't quite strong enough, and that, particularly when things are pushing you, feel like you kind of go back on your physical patterns and your sort of habitual ways of moving. And I felt like there were a lot of things about the ways that I moved and muscles that I called in that didn't work very well with the method. So get a lot of like low back and hip pain, which I've struggled with at different times throughout my life. And it's like, I feel like I have to do a lot of different things most of the time to try to keep it at bay. But I've noticed just in the last couple of years that my way of working the method has really changed. And I've gotten, because there's so much choice now. And two, I think that I've kind of checked my ego a little bit more. I really look for the level and the content that is going to work for me in my body, and that I can feel in a way that's like edifying, as opposed to just like, just pushing.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful and so mature in the method. To this point, it's like you do have to check your ego, and there's no race or that you have to be at a certain level. And sometimes that means evaluating that every week as the content comes out, because it could change, right, week to week. Maybe fundamental might seem better for your lower back, or dropping the weights might seem better for your lower back. I do something very similar too, because I end up with like chronic low back pain and then go get structural therapy and then keep working out and then be like, oh, my back hurts again. Like maybe I need to figure something out. So I love to hear that. And I think that's a great example for everybody in the community too, to, make sure that you're checking in with yourself and you're not just on autopilot, heavy competition mode or something like that, but you're going to get the most out of it when it's working for you.
Right? That's right. That's right. I mean, and the thing that I love about this community is that we're such a group of smart and successful people. Yeah. Like, we're used to getting that return on investment, and we're also used to winning. I hate to just be completely blunt about that. And and I know for me for a long time, I'm like, why isn't this working? I just need to do more. I just need to go harder. I'm not like, there's something wrong with me, or that, whatever. And I think that as I have applied a more receptive and compassionate mindset to my practice, my body has kind of like opened up and received more than maybe it was able to before.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think of a movie quote that has I don't know, it's one of the funny movies or something with like Kristen Stewart and whatever, and they go to Hawaii and take a surfing lesson or something, and the surfing instructor is like, do less, do less. It's to the point where he's like almost doing nothing. He's like, okay, a little more than that. But yeah, sometimes your body is like, less is better than more. So I really appreciate that. We have a question from Kristen actually in the chat, and she wants to know, how do you choose the music that you work out to? Because we all know and love the music from your posts. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it really runs the gamut. So there's one piece is energetic. So what do I need? Like there are some days where I need the push of high energy music, and that might drive the genre as well as just like the beats per minute. And then there are other times other times it's really more about like the thematic content. So I am a words person, so I love to hear things that that inspire me in one way or another. Like that Bikini Kill song, Rebel Girl. It's like or Liz Phair's, is it 5'2", 6'1"? That's what it is, 6'1". Like songs like that have messages that I feel like are really super empowering. And then there are other times when I just need an EDM beat to kind of push me through, and I just want like house music, so something with a hard driving rhythm, lots of repetition. And then there are other times when I really need something to kind of like bring me down energetically. So I mean, I've done workouts to like samba or to Indian ragas, which is a really interesting experience.
Yeah.
You don't try to match your movements to the rhythm of that. But I don't know, I mean, I do a lot of searching, and then lately I've been so nostalgic. For like songs that I listened to when I was in the car when I was a teenager, and all I ever listened to was the radio. And I'd have the random mixtape, but most of the time it was 93.3 WMMR or WXPN out of Philadelphia. And it was whatever was there. Like, and so those songs really, they take me back to, I mean, maybe it's because I've hit a certain age, but so it's a bunch of different stuff.
And do you have playlists at the ready, or when you're kind of evaluating before you work out, do you just like find an artist and then go for it?
So lately what I've been doing, I mean, lately, like on weekends when I have time, I will often sit and I just think about what I want to listen to, and I'll make a playlist. Other times I mean, I have quite a catalog now of different things, and so I'll just pull one of those up. Sometimes I will just kind of search an artist and and either listen to like the radio, the algorithmic selections in that vibe, or just all of their songs. So it's a bunch of different ways, but and then there are other times there are a bunch of people whose music I really love, and so I'll search them out. And if I don't feel like listening to anything that I've put together, then I look for Muna's or Kristen's or Jenny. Love hers too. So
yes, awesome. That's what I love about this community too, is that everybody is willing to share their playlists. So depending how much you want to drive picking your music, or if you want to kind of check out everybody else's, there's options for you so that you can mix it up occasionally. So
yeah, totally.
So I love that. So Lindsay had a question in the chat too, and she asked what brand or style of shoes work best for you? And I guess to add on to that, I would ask, do you use different shoes for dancing versus mat work?
Yes. Oh my God, the shoe thing is huge. So, some of you may know that I stepped on a blender blade about a month ago and cut my foot just below the ball. And so I've had less, like, it sometimes can hurt to flex it really hard. And there are some routines that have a ton of moves where you need a shoe that is like stiff and doesn't have a lot of flex. And so I love a stiff shoe for the mat work. Helps with those side planks, helps with like any plank. Like I've just gotten like stress or sort of stress issues with the soles of my feet when I've worn really soft shoes. And then for dance cardio, I love a really cushy. So I love the Hokas. I wear those quite a bit. And then but I've also really gotten into wearing kind of barefoot running shoes. So neutrals, they don't do any sort of motion control at all. They're kind of just a layer basically. And I think that I have to be careful with those because you kind of have to build up a lot of strength in your ankles and the front of your legs in order to not hurt yourself wearing them. But I found that wearing those from time to time really helps with building that lower leg strength, which, you know, ultimately is what you want and part of the reason why we dance in the first place. So
Yeah, that's a good point too, especially even ankle strength. It's something I struggle with. And I don't know if you're dancing on like a wood floor or carpet floor, but there's differences depending what surface you're on and varying it up and all of that. And I'm also team stiff shoe for mat work.
yeah.
If I wear too soft of a shoe, I actually notice that I'll get like cramps or Charlie horse in my foot sometimes, especially if there's a lot of like star planks or something, because I feel like your foot is kind of scrambling. So
That's right. Yeah, and it makes all the difference. I mean, you know, for me, I probably could, ultimately it's about supporting yourself through all the repetitions, because once you start to fatigue, I feel like you kind of need that extra stability so that if you're just not quite in the right place, you don't end up hurting yourself. And I feel like a lot of the Nike shoes are kind of like there are a whole bunch of models that are good and stiff. But yeah, and my floors, it is just laminate flooring on concrete. It's in our basement, and I have a couple of square 36 mats down on the floor. So that's my dancing surface. So I got to, you know, I generate my own bounce.
yeah, yeah.
And I also have to be careful. I'm probably less bouncy. Like I you know, I keep saying I'm gonna get a floor. I just haven't done it yet. It's a commitment. Like I really kind of want that, like take it out of the box and set it up and it's ready to go. But I don't know if I want that price tag.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. And that's where dancing, like lifting from the core, that's always been one of my top takeaways from Loretta, is just like learning how to be actually lighter on your feet. And it takes so much time
Yeah.
to do. Well, I know you're healing from your foot injury, and I hope that you're fully healed soon. It's definitely not a fun thing to deal with. Speaking from experience of breaking several toes last year. So it's tough. So take it easy, and obviously you know your body. So another question for you, kind of going back to our pre-planned questions. When you think back to the shift from some of the other exercises that we're doing, what do you feel like really helped you choose the Tracy Anderson method over everything else when you finally got to that place?
So I'd never really thought about results in the context of the shape of my body and trying to shape my body in a particular way. I thought about results in terms of pain relief, in terms of strength building, in terms of aerobic capacity, that sort of thing. And at the time, I think I was in, I think, gosh, I guess I was in my late 30s or so. And things like running wasn't working as well. The other things I was doing weren't working as well. And I felt like I just needed to shift and try something else. So that had was a big factor in it. And then the other thing that I thought a lot about in choosing the method was like, I wanted to have something that had, was a deep bench of content. And I liked the fact that it was sort of like curriculum based and that there was growth built into the program. So not just like, I had used Yoga Glow before and Pilates Anytime, but it was just, those were just random classes. And you could do it like, oh, I want to do an ab class, or I want to do a plank class or something, but there wasn't any progression. And I really loved Tracy's commitment to like growing people's strength over time. And that sort of like week over week strategy was really meaningful to me. And then I have a background in dance, and I think that really, that the choreography of the moves, even in the mat work early on, really spoke to that for me. When I was in college, I studied the Martha Graham technique most of the time. And like, there's a whole, God, it's like you could spend 45 minutes or an entire 90-minute class just on the floor doing the floor series. And so I was used to moving around on the floor, and I loved that. And I also loved those like on the floor to standing up transitions. And I think I've actually even posted a couple of times about like Tracy moves that called to mind elements of the Martha Graham floor series. So just seeing that sort of reflected and that continuity was really meaningful to me too.
That's really cool. I'm going to have to ask you a little bit more about the Martha Graham technique, because I'm like, I've never heard of that, so I want to know. So I would ask too, like, who in the Tamily inspires you now that you've been a part of this community? I feel like you've been part of the community even longer than I have. Like, I can't imagine it without you. So who inspires you?
God, there are so many people. I mean, it's hard because I don't want to leave anybody out. You are one of the major inspirations for me. Look, you're a total badass. The thing that I love about you is like, you're so fierce about getting your thing done, but you don't make any apologies about it. And you also, it seems like you kind of let it have the right place in your life. So it's important, yes, but it's like, you're not going to live and die by it. You show up, you get your work done, and it facilitates the rest of everything else that you do. I love Sherry Juby. She has TAM. I love how she's used the method to help herself like work through some of her physical challenges and other emotional things that she's been dealing with. Like, I resonate so much with her experience and just feel like she's such a warrior. And when you see her move, it has so much integrity, and it feels like she's so authentic in her body. It just really neat to see. I love, obviously, El Boogie, Lauren Kata, who I actually saw her speak at a Society of American Archivists conference, like in the early aughts. And she was talking about an oral history project that she was doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. I never got to meet her, like never talked to her. And then all of a sudden, when she showed up in the Tamily, I'm like, man, she looks familiar. Where do I know her from? And then I found out she was an archivist. And then I was like, what? And then I think we got on a Zoom one time and we started talking. It was like immediately, I'm like, I know you. So it's just so neat to have your world come back around like that, There are tons of other folks, and I don't, like I said, I feel really weird. Like, I don't want to leave anybody out, but those are folks that jump right off my, off the top of my head. Well, and I mean, obviously Kristen Trigger Stacked is a huge inspiration for me. She's so self-deprecating, but her way of articulating both her experience of her movement practice, but what she's going through in her life is so relatable and so immediate. And I don't think that like she would ever say, oh, well, I'm a writer or I'm a words person or whatever. But she absolutely totally is. And I don't know how somebody who is like a financial planner type is also that good with words. It's not fair. It's just not fair.
She's one of a kind. I have to agree with you. I've never met anyone who is like great with spreadsheets and numbers that is so eloquent and always has kind of the right thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's definitely a gem and always makes me laugh too, even because she is self-deprecating, but it's always like funny.
Yeah, totally.
And I feel like you have met several Tamily too. I want to say somebody came to visit you. I can't remember if it was Manat.
Yeah.
It was a while. Tell us a little bit about who you've met so far in the Tamily.
So Manat has come out to Boulder with her family. She has a family connection here a few different times. And so we've had the chance to like work out together a bunch when she's been visiting, and that's been really cool. I met Muna Zakur when we went to a Vitality Week together in 2016, and that was when I started streaming. Like immediately after that, I had a sit down with Tracy, and she was like, "You need to start streaming," and I was like, "Okay, I'll start streaming." Anyway, and Muna and I have stayed in touch off and on, more or less. And she's somebody who I really admire too. I mean, she said, she started from zero and it's just like grown so much. I mean, I've always thought she was super graceful. And she seemed to have a facility with the moves, like at least as long as I've been following her. It's not like with me where you see me and I literally will be falling on my rear and like rolling out of stuff and like, or just totally tapping out and just being like, what's going on right now? Anyway, she's another person who I've met. And then also at that Vitality Week, I met Christina Christou, I think is her last name, for the Love of Peachy Bottom. She was at that.
Yeah.
She was at that Vitality Week. And, both of them were such inspirations to me. They show up, they're like right front and center, like on either side of Tracy at the front of the room. And I'm like literally back corner. And I went to the bathroom so many times just to get out of the heat. And like literally put my head between my legs and be like, don't pass out, don't pass out. You can do this. But they were so strong. And I was like, I do not know how these women got ready for this. I mean, at the time, I don't think that either. I mean, I don't think Muna had spent any time in studio. I mean, obviously, it's a little harder for her to get to a studio. I feel like Christy, after that, would go to New York a fair amount. I would see her posting about it, but
yeah.
But those are the folks who and obvious. Oh, and Sherry lives just down the road from me in Arvada, so we get together for hikes and workouts probably. Well, we didn't all during COVID, but we had a coffee date this summer. It was really fun to be like in person with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. After this year of, I call it the treadmill year, where I feel like everybody was so tired and exhausted, but you didn't physically move very far.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's nice to get back to normal. I think that's really cool. So I want to ask you a little bit about, with your experience with the method and kind of growing and finding your groove with it, what would your advice be to somebody who isn't necessarily new, but maybe isn't feeling motivated or is feeling like they might need to be rejuvenated a little bit?
Mm-hmm. So we were talking about this a little bit before. I think all the time about this Tribe Called Quest song, The Luck of Lucien. And it's Q-Tip, and he's singing about this French guy, Lucien. And in one of the lines, he says something like, don't try so hard, why don't you try just a little? And I feel like, I mean, in my experience, the times when I have lost my motivation, when I've lost my want, when it's starting to feel like a chore, 9 times out of 10, it's because I'm overtrained. And I just need to like work in more rest days, down level, do some uh, other self-care. You know, I think that sometimes people think, and maybe erroneously, that they shouldn't have to uh, go to the chiropractor or get massages or do acupuncture if they're doing the method. But the reality is, for most of us, is that we still need it. We have a million other things going on in our lives. And the other thing is just like, just be realistic about where you're at, because it may be that something that's legitimately more important needs more attention from you. The method's still going to be there. You could do it 1 day a week, you could do it 7, but it's going to be there for you. Your strength isn't going to go away anywhere. I mean, I've even come back with injuries where I've taken time off and haven't done the method at all for like a month or more, and then come back and I actually like very quickly become even stronger.
Yeah.
After those periods of rest. So I just can't stress like the need for rest enough. And I mean, I just feel like not all bodies can do 7 days a week. It might make sense for you, but it doesn't make sense for everybody. And you shouldn't just assume that you can't do the method if you can't go 7 days a week for 90 minutes.
Say it again for the people in the back. I feel like that's so that, you know, I personally believe that a rest is part of the method. So it's something that you incorporate into your workout. To your point, maybe 1 week, 7 days feels great. Other times it might feel like way too much. Maybe 7 days of attain is too much, but you can mix in some start, or, you know, now there's so many options too. I'm like battling this gross cold. And so I'm like, I'm just going to do like the evening reach, or, you know, and it's not even like it's just, but it feels good. Like, I think we get addicted to moving our body, then we equate that you always have to move it at the exact same level that you're used to. And sometimes gentle movement can be great, can help you sleep better. And yeah, you've got to look at your entire portfolio of self-care, if you will. And moving is a part of it, resting is a part of it, eating is a part of it. There's a lot to that. So I appreciate that advice too. I'll remind myself.
I know. It's a post-it on my mirror for sure.
Yeah. So what challenges have you faced during the method? I know you mentioned some injuries. You have your recent injury. Have you faced any other challenges?
Yeah. So I have hypermobile SI joints, and I have short hip flexors and really strong glutes. And this is like a recipe for a lot of low back pain doing the method. Mm-hmm. And so like, for me, those sort of physical things have been really big, and I've had to like, again, back off. Like, I don't know. I had this like, slip disc in my neck last fall, and it came around at the time like there's a lot of stress going on. We had that like wildfire, and I had to be evacuated, and so it was like busiest quarter of the year, and I think I just kind of like crumped on myself, and that was the last time I kind of had to take a solid time away from doing the method, because I had to just get those nerves calmed down, and I couldn't do anything that would trigger it. But when I came back, it was like all of a sudden, like I've been doing a whole bunch of other PT, and the moves were so much richer. I was doing start, and I felt them in this much more nuanced way, and it felt completely different in my body, and it felt like I was working in the way that Tracy had always intended. When we started doing more chair stuff, like spring a year ago, spring of 2020, and when we started having the lives, like the chair classes have always really appealed to me, and they do kind of help me stay out of my bad movement habits and my kind of bad movement patterns. So like all of those standing sequence classes are like, they're gold for me for sure. Another challenge that I think I have faced is that horrible thing. You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I am a person who is like so low key competitive that it's just painful. You'd never know it. I'm not gonna, like, it's not something that I lead with, but I'm in there. And if I feel like I'm not keeping up, or I'm not a good student, or I'm not working hard enough, then I get really mad at myself and really frustrated. And there have been a lot of times when it's been a challenge for me on the mat, because for either I've had fatigue, or I've been dealing with pain, or I've just been distracted or stressed out, and come to my practice with like a really shitty attitude, and like find myself getting so frustrated and like just get really, really mad, almost to the point like there were times that I have to like turn it off, because I'm like, this isn't even working for me. And so getting myself in the right headspace to be receptive and to kind of let go of everything else that's happening, and kind of just focus on the sensations in my body and the work that I'm trying to do. That's been a real practice for me, which is so weird, because I'm supposed to be like, you know, the yoga Pilates teacher who's so mindful and so Zen, but I guess maybe that's why I spent so much time studying it, because it's so hard for me to do.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that too. It's something that, you're right, even if it doesn't present on the outside, so many of us can battle with that. And it is important to like take a step back, do a little reflection, be like, what is it? You know, sometimes it may mean that you need to step away from Instagram or something for a little while, and just kind of refocus on yourself and reconnect with why you're doing the method in the first place, and really think about, you know, the evolution within yourself. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, a thing that you just said really resonated with me. And it's that whole thing, like connecting with yourself. And I love doing group workouts, but there are a lot of times I just love having that time for me, and to like get really internal. And if I have something come up and I start bawling in the middle of class, which like happens to me, I mean, regularly, it's just, you know, I, you know, can stop and I can let that happen. And if I need to, you know, stop and rewind and redo something, or if some move is just not kind of working for me, you know, to just give myself that space to just sit and watch it, and to be curious, and to try to figure out, is there a way I can make this move work for me and my body? Then, you know, my experience coming out is so much better.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that too, because now I feel like I'm not the only Scrooge. I mean, I do love a group workout once in a while, but sometimes it feels like a lot more pressure, and I'm so used to doing it by myself and processing by myself, that even setting up another device and all these other things can be, it's just kind of takes away from what I'm trying to do. Mm-hmm. But then I balance, like I love the musical themed workouts or whatever. So that would be like the one Zoom that I will typically participate in.
Yeah.
And yeah, just making it work for yourself. Well, Kristen has another question for you, which okay. I'm also curious to, and it kind of inspired our prom look today. But which is, where do you get your outfit inspiration from? We love seeing all your unique outfits. I know that you've been able to kind of emulate some of Tracy's looks. I just love your style in general. So tell us a little bit about that.
Gosh, I'm so excited to talk about this. I think this is it. Well, I could take this all the way through the rest of the afternoon. For whatever reason, I think I'm a frustrated fashion editor. I never considered fashion as a career, but I love color play. And I also love the proportions. I mean, I think that Tracy's style is super inspirational. And I remember talking to like Hannah Wartsman one time, and she was talking about the fact that she's like, only people who do Tracy Anderson wear leotards when they dance or when they work out. Like, this is something that's unique to us, you know. And for me, with my dance background, you know, it's like it sort of gets in there. And I think I've just in general will be inspired by certain color pairings that I see in a magazine or online. The other thing that I'll do is I am obsessed with matching. And so I will pull out, like, I'll be like, oh, this pair of sneakers that I have, it has these colors. Let me see what I have. There are these colors. And I literally will pull everything that has those colorways out of my closet. And I play with them like fashion plates. I don't know if you remember those from when you were a kid. Yeah, I had that. I love those. And yeah. I will pull those out, or pull all these things out, and I put them all together. And then I usually, I start out, I'll do it for like a week, and I'll be like, oh, look, I've got 7 outfits here. So I've got 7 different options. So even if I only post once, it'll all go together in a story. And like, so I mean, I do a lot of that. And then sometimes I'll be like, well, what do you know, I got frustrated because then I'll change my mind and I'll say, you know, I know I'm wearing cool colors this week, but I really want to wear orange today. Like, that's going to totally mess everything up. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Variety is the spice of life. You know, I think it's so cool to kind of come in with a plan, but then also have the flexibility to be like, you know what, today I'm feeling this, or, you know, maybe some days, in addition to music setting the mood, color can also help set a mood for you for your workout. If you need energy or you want to feel like extra strong, maybe throw on like some serious reds or like red color combos, or something really sporty, like blue and yellow together is my all-time favorite. But just anything like, I feel like a team vibe, sports vibe, stuff like that. I really like that.
Thanks. Yeah, I totally get that. And like, you know, the other thing that I love about athleisure is like the textures. And so, you know, these garments have such interesting hand feels. And so like, you know, you get a nice pair of like seamless leggings that are just the exact weight and they hug you just the right amount. And all of a sudden you go from feeling like, you know, you're half asleep, you're thinking about, whatever, you're just like not in the zone. And then you put this outfit on, you're like, oh, I look pretty good. I think I'm ready to hit it. You know?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I love it. So tell us a little bit about, like, what is your philosophy in general about working out, and how do you fit that into your overall philosophy of life?
Yeah, so it's something that I am somebody who absolutely 100% needs to do a regular hard effort to stay sane. I remember reading Lena Dunham post when I don't know if she still does the method, but it was back when she was working out with Tracy. And she said, it's not about the ass, it's about the brain. And for me, absolutely, I need that sort of like, it's not just the endorphins, it's just the management of my anxiety level over the rest of my day. It's absolutely 100% essential. But that also means that I can't overdo it. And so the whole like balance thing is also my kind of touchstone. So it's like, what does balance look like for me today? One of the things that I've really struggled with is this idea of trying to fit it all in, you know. And I would get up at 3:45 in the morning so that I could have enough time to work out and walk the dogs and like do all the things to get to work, and then, you know, be at the office for 10 hours and then come home and like literally like be sleep deprived so that I could make my workout happen. And then I'd like wonder why I was cranky or not looking forward to it. So being realistic, I mean, we all have to fit so much in our lives. We're all doing so much all of the time. And most of us don't have as much help as we would like to, or even as we need. Yeah. And so like being realistic about what our limits are and not feeling guilty for that is like, I just cannot stress enough like how powerful it is for me just to let myself off the fucking hook one time, you know, like,
Right.
and the other thing is that it keeps me coming back. It keeps me coming back for more. I think I told Kristen this week when we were chatting too, like, I've started to think about my workout in some ways as a courtship. So I want to go in and I want to calibrate the intensity and the duration so that the next morning I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get back into it. I can't wait to try it again. And I know that if I overdo it the next day, I might be like, oh God, I'm tired. Can I do it? How many days am I going to be able to do this week?
Right.
You know, versus like doing a little bit less, maybe going a little bit easier. That next day you come in and you're like, I am amped and I'm really ready to embody these moves. And I think it's also the difference between like being constantly managing an injury and not, for me in my body, you know, less intensity, knocking down on the weights, maybe not always doing all of the reps. You know, I was listening to you say something about talk about hitting the reps, and I've been really focusing on that, like just matching the pacing, because I think it's really helpful for our aerobic fitness and also just to get where we need to with the muscle exhaustion. But there's a balance to that, and and sometimes it comes at an opportunity cost. So if I have to like down level for a few days or take an extra rest day because this week's like content is super challenging for me, or if things are stressful or whatever, it's just like knowing that I have that level of commitment and habit in my back pocket gives me the sense of trust in myself to be able to make sort of dynamic choices and not just to be driven by rigid routine, have to, you know, do this thing every day.
100%. And it's funny you talk about that because it's one of the things that, you know, I tried to focus on with my own individual prescription is to try to go a bit faster because I don't do as much dance cardio. I've had a few injuries trying to do it. But so I will maybe only do that 2 or 3 days a week where I will go faster and really try to work on tempo. And then the other days I go slow. So I never listen to Tracy's music. I always just listen to my own. I used to back a couple years ago when the music was a little different, but I find that even changing the music can help you figure out your tempo that you need. So some days the tempo of the music can help you go along and get in a groove and do half as many reps. And when you think about the overarching goal is usually just trying to focus on consistency, not the exact same thing every day, but maybe moving a certain number of times a week or something like that. So when you make it work for yourself, you're more likely to be consistent than if you're like, go hard every day until you burn out and then you're just like, I don't want to do it anymore. So
right.
Really interesting. We've got another question from Kristen. I'm sorry, I can't sideways very well.
Yeah.
Are you more elective content? So yeah, you did mention the standing sequences. Have you been doing some other elective content, or tell us a little bit about sort of what is your routine or flexible routine in terms of which classes and which electives you like to do?
Yeah, so I go in and out of dance cardio. I find like I got really interested in trying to learn a dance, and then it's just a lot to fit in that with the strategic routines every week. I've been really focused on those strategic routines. I like how you can see the same themes from advanced down to beginner. And I mean, it was only just this week that I started doing advanced again. So for the last, 7 months or so, it's just either been beginner or intermediate. And with the beginner, I usually just wear the heavy weights, mostly just because it helps me with those simple moves and fewer reps. It helps me feel where the initiation of the movement is because there's more weight on the lever, you know?
Yeah.
I really enjoy the standing sequences. They've helped me when, being on my hands and knees a whole lot hasn't really been awesome. And then I've been really enjoying the arm toner. So I don't, my arms have always been a challenge for me. I don't know what it is. Like I want to go and talk to a PT or somebody specifically about why I'm like, I don't feel like my biceps fire. I don't feel like my deltoids fire. I've got plenty of like lat strength and feel like I try to do everything with my traps. And so really getting into the muscles in my limbs has been really cool. So, on the days that I'll do beginner, that's when I maybe would incorporate elective content just as a little extra. And then the dancing, I love those quick 15-minute bonus cardios, and like I really like the multitask cardio too, for just really amping up your heart rate and moving around when you're not doing a lot of choreography. And then the low impact dance routines, which are really great. Like, and they run the gamut too, from like not really low impact at all to truly low impact. So all of that sort of, those are the ones that I kind of have been keying off of lately.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, we're so fortunate to have so much variety. For those that can manage it well and not feel like they have to do everything, I think it's great. And if you struggle with that, then I think it's, again, always important to really harken back to like, what are your goals? Do you want to focus on the strategy and don't get distracted by elective stuff and bonus stuff or feel like you have to do it all? It is also balanced, but it's great to have that, especially if you're dealing with injury or you just need to mix up your routine. So I think it's really cool. I've been so tempted personally to do the for him workouts because they look so cool.
Oh yeah. I haven't even looked at them.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look awesome. So I'm curious, is there any advice that you've received from the Tamily, whether it's kind of collectively, that has really been in fact impactful to you?
Yeah. So this is something that Maggie, debate champ, says all of the time in her posts, that it's such a touch point for me and has been for a long time. And it's like every time I hear her talk about it, I'm like, yes, that. And it's don't get stuck. And whether that's like, don't get stuck in the middle of a move in a hard transition, like that freaking push up into the one-legged dog thing that I still can't figure out quite how to do. It's getting stuck. It's like you have to let the momentum kind of roll through you for it not to like get, blocked up and all of a sudden become this huge lift and muscle push to try to get out of. And so for me, that's like the most important thing for practicing the method well. And then it's also a great life lesson, which is part of the reason why I say it to myself literally every day, whatever it is that's going on. You don't want to get stuck in a particular headspace. And I don't know, for me, that's the other thing with this particular way of moving. It moves you and things move through you because you are moving so dynamically. And so it gives you a way to get out of getting stuck.
Yeah, I love that advice that she shares all the time. And now that she's been doing reels with the little Maggie thought bubble,
yeah,
I will just watch them on repeat. I'm like, oh, these are so good.
Oh, I know. I love that.
I work out.
Yeah, I know.
So, will you tell us a little bit about where do you live, what do you do, and then what are you most proud of professionally?
So I live in outside of Boulder, Colorado, in the foothills above Boulder. Have lived down here in Boulder for 10 years now. And I do operations work for a venture capital firm. I'd say that what I'm most proud of professionally is my ability to step into such a wide variety of rooms and I mean, and own them, not in terms of like, oh, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to own those people or whatever, but like to walk in and to understand situations, to ramp quickly and to be efficient and to kind of quickly ascertain what my role is and where, you know, I need to go. And I think, I've had a bunch of transitions throughout my career that have kind of, I don't know, I mean, definitely look like from the outside hard lefts, and they did feel like hard lefts, in my experience too, but it's gratifying to be able to go from one context to another and to kind of reinvent yourself professionally, and to realize that a lot of the things that you were doing in a wholly different context previously actually have application across everything, which is why I will say liberal arts college forever. And
Yeah.
and don't be afraid of a history major or a philosophy minor or a dance minor. It doesn't mean that you're done for career-wise. You can still have a career.
I love that you say that, because there's an aspect to where sometimes very easy to either put yourself in a box or to put others in a box, or people will put you in a box because of X, Y, Z, whatever. But the ability to transition throughout your career, and you learn things at every juncture. And when you can actually connect those dots and synthesize them, and then you have even greater experience to go into your next role. I always tell people that I work with, like, yes, it's all been done before, but it's never been done by you, right? And you will bring something unique, your own background, your own experience, your own ideas, and help to transform something. And I think even just having that mindset can really help you go for a different type of job. Or to your point, you said, you know, it may look like a hard left on the outside, but to you, it felt like a totally natural transition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's awesome. Like,
yeah.
Experience is everything in life. There's only so much that you can read in a book. You actually have to get out there and go do it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You know, it's so interesting because I feel like, you know, we work with a lot of tech startups, and you know, I see product people all the time, and I just love the various sort of like career paths of product people, like, you know, medieval literature backgrounds, and I was you know, philosophy major, and I sailed sailboats for 5 years, and then I decided to do product. And you know, and again, it's about that ability, that sort of agility to, like, one, translate technical concepts into meaningful things that you know, a customer, whether, no matter who that customer might be, can understand and value. So there's like I mean, it requires that kind of breadth and that flexibility. But anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I love those people.
I love it too. I mean,
yeah.
It's so fun to learn from so many different people with so much different experience too. And yeah, medieval literature even just sounds kind of cool. I want someone to tell me about that.
I know, right?
Well, I feel like I could talk to you for hours and hours, and one day we're going to have to do that. I know we've got a couple minutes left, so I wanted to offer it up to you. Is there anything that you would like to share with the Tamily while you have this audience, and also with the audience in perpetuity that's going to watch this on Ask Tamily and on YouTube as well? Anything you would like to share?
So I guess I've been reflecting a lot lately on this idea of balance, and I feel like we've talked about, you know, balance and things related to balance a lot lately. And it's not just like I have a big butt and I want it to be smaller. It's out of balance. I think when Tracy talks about creating balance where there is imbalance in the body, its best application is when you can think about it holistically across the breadth of your life. And the answer isn't always more effort. And I guess I just can't, like, when all of the things that I thought about, like, saying, or things that I wanted to talk about when we were talking about to people, to you today, it was like, everyone in this community is such an achiever and is balancing so much and is accomplishing so much on the day to day. And I see folks, like, also taking themselves to task over stuff that, like, just, look, give yourself a break. We are doing amazing. Like, we're doing, all of us are doing amazing, and we should all get credit for that. And you don't have to, like, and we don't all have cooks and housekeepers and nannies and, you know, all of the other things that folks can have that enable them to, like, just focus single-mindedly on their on the, like, physical shape of their bodies. So just don't get hung up on the fact that your life looks different than like somebody else's, and just key into your own wisdom, because it's there. And if you can, like, do that and slow down enough and give yourself credit and love on yourself a little bit, like, and I'm talking to myself as I'm talking to everybody and you.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's like the big thing that I wanted to make sure that I said a million times over the course of this conversation.
Well, I'm so glad you did. Everybody needs to hear that and hear it again and again and again. And so I appreciate you sharing that, not only with yourself and with the audience and with me, because, yeah, I mean, we're doing great. So give yourself a pat on the back, have a little fun, you know, eat the ice cream, go to the beach, wear the swimsuit, do whatever, like, live your life and enjoy it. So
right. And all of this exercise and the stuff that we do is about us being able to show up more for ourselves and the people around us. Like, our little babies that we walk around, I don't have any babies, but a lot of people do. I've got, you know, 150-pound dogs. I got to be able to heft them into the car. I got to be able to follow them and chase them around. I have to be able to do all of the things. People have to carry their babies and their groceries, and they have to be able to get on the floor and climb up the ladder and, you know, help their parents pack up their homes. You know, there's all this stuff that happens to us in life, and, like, our exercise and the stuff that we do for our wellness is so that we can show up for the rest of our lives. And that's balance.
yes, this is a piece of our life that helps us live our lives, you know, as true and effective and full of love as possible. And so, thank you.
Yeah.
I love you, Shannon. I'm like, I can't wait to meet you in real life and give you a hug and have you dress me up in some cool outfits.
Yes, I will style anybody any day of the week. You just tell me if I'm there.
I will take you up on that. It's been a joy to talk to you. Thank you so much for being our 157th interview. I can't wait to see you in person one day, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. You look gorgeous, so you should go out to lunch or something, or brunch. Just have a cocktail on your beautiful patio and look at those trees that you have right behind you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Emily. I'm so grateful, and we'll meet each other in real life very soon. I just know it.
We will, for sure. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, Tamily.
Bye, everyone.